One of the reasons we all love this industry so much is like everyone genuinely does try and help each other. That's why I love it. It's awesome. So just trying to utilise the network and then try and encourage your new hire to utilise their network to just be a sponge and just learn from lots of different types of people and meet lots of different types of people, especially this industry more than any others, is that everyone will want to help.
I could speak to him and get really excited about an opportunity or something we were doing or programmer work. But he would, he would never sound excited on the phone, but he'd come back the next day and he would, I think that's a good idea. Let's do it. Understanding now, having done this exercise, a blue will never make an on-the-spot call. They need to step back and reflect. So if you're sort of thinking that with if you know that's someone who's joining the business, that's their style of communication or thought process, I think that's got to be helpful for onboarding and development.
Today I am absolutely buzzing to welcome my good friends and partners of the podcast, Paul Jones and Billy Maddock, who are part of Mackenzie Jones, who are our first original OG sponsor, and now Billy, who's heading up Ignite, who's their challenger arm of the business. So lads, thanks for having me in Richmond in your humble abode. It does look a bit like I've got you hostage with the background. But
we're not selling our office here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great to be here, Dan.
Well, look, I think the first pod we did, I think, must have been about a year ago now. Well, it would have been a year ago because Supper Club was May, so it's a year ago. It feels like yesterday. But last time we talked a lot about how kind of the mistakes brands make when hiring, kind of the job description, how to kind of what to look for in the CVs. All that was really interesting. And when we were kind of gestating the idea for the second part, we were thinking of what are people not thinking about, or challenger brands don't necessarily think about when it comes to hiring. So they think about, finding the great person, spotting the gap in the team, blah, 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 blah. And what we've struck upon, which I think is genuine gold, is kind of the journey from how do you get someone to hit the ground running? How do you get someone to, when they join the team or the band, they are absolutely smashing it? And I think with, in football, if you think of Manchester United or Chelsea, they've spent billions on players and they haven't hit the ground running in the first, week, 6 weeks. And as soon as that happens, it can start bad behaviours coming into play, morale drops down. So I think this is really important and I can't wait to explore it with you guys. But I think the best place to start with is what are some of the mistakes, and they are quite basic, but they are mistakes. What are some of the mistakes from, say I'm Dan's Donuts, yeah? Dan's Donuts offers you, Billy, a job, right? Fucking excited, you're an 18 player, you're a Harry Kane, you're ready to have you on board. From that offer, what are the biggest, to the 3 weeks of you starting, what are some of the biggest mistakes brands make? Maybe you want to take two and then you can take...
I think before we get started on answering that question, I think it's probably worth just providing a bit of context as to what we aim to cover. So I think what we're talking about today is the whole journey from someone being offered a job through to them becoming hitting the ground running or becoming a high performing employee. Yeah. And that journey we've broken down into 3 different parts. So it's that first part from when someone accepts a job through to them starting in the business. That's part 1. Second part is from that in the first 2 weeks in the business, that immersion into the business. And then the third part is that continuous support and development. So through from that 2-week period through to them becoming high performing. So 3 different parts, and hopefully we'll cover some different topics throughout all 3 sections. In answer to your question, what mistakes do people make? I think there's plenty doing what we do. We see quite a lot of good and bad, and I think it's for me it's that initial period from that when they get an offer through to them starting. A lot of it's about getting the basics right, firstly. So it's, if you've made an offer to someone, don't hang around for a week or 2 or 3 weeks to getting a contract out to someone. Something really basic like that. But if it's taking ages to get a contract written up, which it can for some businesses because you've got a business to run, it may give someone an impression of organisation skills or where you are as a priority. So let's get the basics right. It's making sure that the rest of the business know that this hire has been made. A lot of the time that doesn't happen. So
so what Mark Palmer talks about is the brilliant basics. So he was at Pret, Green and Blacks, did LA Brewery, and I think the fact they're basic is the fact they're so basic is people actually neglect it, and the reason they're brilliant is because they are so simple. Sometimes the most simple things are the most important.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of your piece about setting the tone, I really believe in challenger brands. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
As like a leader, it's like if you call the person or send the contract out 2 weeks late, that sets the tone. Being like, fuck, these guys are a bit disorganized or disorganized, I don't know what they say.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really interesting one.
And I think, sorry, just to interrupt.
Yeah.
The thing for me is this is something that our friend Owen at Good Rays mentioned. He said a really interesting point resonated with me. It was like it's the responsibility of the whole business to make sure that someone is onboarded or inducted correctly. It's not just on the founder. It's not just on the hiring manager. It's the responsibility of everyone in that company. To make sure that everyone is aware, everyone's making someone feel welcome, everyone clears their diaries, or make sure that you go for lunch with someone on the first day, or whatever it might be, or if there's a social, it's not just on that line manager, it's on everyone to make someone feel welcome. Because the sooner someone feels at home or feels welcome, the sooner they're going to start performing.
Anything for you, PJ?
Yeah, for sure. Look, to me, it's communication is the key thing here. It needs to be personalised. Billy's mentioned, welcome. Sometimes workouts can be up to 3 months. Ouch. So keeping.
When you say workouts,
notice period for a candidate before they start from an offer to the notice period they have to serve where they are. So getting them out to trade shows, getting to know the business, and when someone's working a notice period, they can feel like they're floating through that a bit. They know they're leaving where they are, but they're not where they're going. And there's that sort of weird hiatus in the middle. So giving them a sense of purpose and belonging through that period, I think is really important.
How do you think they do that without playing devil's advocate?
Yeah.
Because there's the whole thing of I think floating's a delicious word because it is that kind of you're in between two, you're floating.
Yeah.
But it's like you don't want to you want to keep them in the loop in the mixer, and you want them to kind of feel like get them pumped. It's almost like not Christmas Day because it's work. Maybe that's a bit too. But you want them to get gassed about coming to work for this place. Part on that side, but on the other side, you don't want them to feel like fuck me, I haven't even started. I'm not being paid.
Yeah,
just getting the balance right.
Like you already give me work. Like, is there any darling examples of like how to juggle that so people getting excited, but they're not feeling cumbersome with work?
I can give you 2 examples.
Yeah,
and I think to me it's all case, and it also depends on the functional hire that you're making and the level of hire, depending on what that engagement looks like.
So when you say functional, like
whether it's sales or whether it's marketing or finance, But look, Twinings Tea, for example, they when there were people are offered a role on board, they're then fed bits of market data and insights during that period. Any new business wins that they've had. Any new launches that are going out. So they're feeling part of the business. They get a sense of belonging. They know the direction of travel, and they feel that they're being included in the comms, which is neat and nice. I like that. On the other side, Ian Wilkinson from Hunter and Gather, who's the most recent sort of commercial director there and doing great things as our Hunter and Gather. He was asked to be involved in preparing some of their, or looking at some of their pitch documents for Tesco before he joined the business. So he felt truly part of the business and immersed in the business and felt he was adding value. So gave him a sort of, this is where I'm going and this is why I'm going there, rather than waiting for day one when you first join a business.
In my experience, most people prefer too much contact rather than too little. That's what I felt.
Interesting. Yeah.
So you'd prefer to be kept up to speed, even if you're being worked quite hard during your notice period, but you want to be kept up to speed with your new business, how the new business is doing, as opposed to not hearing anything at all throughout your notice period. So that it is about balance, but from what I understand is that you'd almost prefer to be like doing a little bit too much, but respecting they're not an employee yet, rather than too little.
Because I think it's interesting. For me personally, I wouldn't want to be pulled into what is Tesco's pitch deck from the off. But I think you're right. I think there's other ways in terms of like in terms of like no, but it's like it's also. All of this is you're dealing with human beings.
Well, so it's also case by case.
Case by case, exactly.
That hire was to launch into grocery.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's all case by case. Yeah. And I think I'm just trying to think what would work for me if I was an employee switching jobs. I'd be like, for me, touch points, but like maybe a couple of drinks.
Yeah.
Socials, trade shows.
I suppose what I'm trying to pull out here is that it's all case by case.
Yeah.
Like the Tesco example is a darling example for someone who's coming in grocery.
Yeah.
They are high performance. I mean, everyone's a high performance brand, but like Hunter and Gather are. Gather are. But I think that with all of this, it's like take information and then
it's all centered around communication fundamentally.
Yes.
And what you've just mentioned there, the question you've just asked, what would work for me?
Yeah.
For me, like that's the whole point. It's got to be personal.
Yeah.
So ask the person you've hired, like how much contact do you want, like how involved do you want to be kept? Because they may turn around and be like, look, I'm going to be working really quite hard throughout my notice period. So probably best not to bombard them a load of stuff. Or they'd be like, actually, I'm probably going to finish a bit early. I really want to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So therefore, you'd probably give that person more information than the person that's. So ask, have a conversation, open, honest conversation. How involved, how up to the speed, how in the loop do you want to be kept during?
Yeah, again, it's brilliant basics, but sometimes it is going back to the brilliant basics. In terms of William Kendall, who sold Green and Blacks, we were talking about the brilliant basics with just getting meetings right, getting board meetings right. So it's like, you send actions after the meeting. Someone writes it, you have X person does this, Naomi does Y, Gareth, just putting names up my arse here, does Z. But like it's really basic things. I think it's definitely applicable here. I think you're so right. It's like, what do you want? It's like get to know, personalize it to them. What are some of the other brilliant basics that people fuck up on that first bit? I know we talked about the MD say sales director hires or ops director hires. Actually having that touch point with the founder is really crucial, because the founder is basically the nucleus and the nectar of the fucking brand.
Yeah, I think it's like, look, speak the hire manager, but actually I think feeling that the business is connected to you, is looking forward to you joining, wants to have a relationship with you, is there to answer questions, is there to help, and actually is people, as Billy said earlier, it's a responsibility of the whole business to make somebody feel welcome and onboarded. So, multiple contacts, and certainly rather than just the hiring manager, the MDs or the founders should be in contact with that individual to be, welcoming them to the business and explaining how much they're looking forward to working together on the journey that they're on, and sharing a bit of their direction of travel and ambition and reaffirming it. So it is a bit case by case, but contact, insight, knowledge, connectivity, they're all the key pieces.
Things like as well, mate, it's like, it's something really simple as by announcing a new hire on LinkedIn. That makes someone feel really welcome, like that. Wow, the business is excited me and energized by the fact they've joined because they've announced it on socials. It's things like that can make a huge difference. But
also the other side of that is it's like it's almost like, from the employee's perspective, it's like, fuck me, like I've got big boots to fill here. So it works like it
depends what they say in the announcement post.
Yeah. No, but as in to say, like, I think it adds. You want people who are hungry. So there's two sides to this. It's like making the person feel really warm and connected. But I also think there's another side to this, which again, the reason I've doing podcasts is things come up that you're not expecting to come. But it's almost like, you want someone to come in and feel like they're really stepping up to your brand. And
you want them to feel that they're valued and adding value.
But also it's like. Yeah, like we're excited to have you, exactly. And then it's going to enforce them to. And that's how that would make me feel.
To be fair, I think this is quite a nice segue into the second section, because the second section of that, like when someone starts that first 2 weeks, it's being really clear, and I guess it depends on the business and things like that, but it's been really clear that first 2 weeks. Just like I think it was Owen from Good Razor. That first 2 weeks, there's no expectation on them at all. Absolutely no expectation. So you're in the first 2 weeks, it really should just be around like full learning and immersing yourself in that business without any expectation to deliver, because it can be very difficult to deliver in that first 2 weeks. So even if they did put a post out announcing your, I guess, employment on LinkedIn, if the expectation's been made that, look, you don't need to deliver anything in the first 2 weeks, that should hopefully help.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Phil and Tom from Honest Burger, they were talking about this. They're actually saying they had one of their guys go to Pizza Pilgrims, and they talked about the executive, like the senior executive fallacy, whereby you have a senior executive person going into a brand potentially. So let's say they've worked for, not always, right, but PepsiCo. They suddenly think, right, well, I need to like not change things, but like, well, I need to really stamp my mark down. And so this is how we're going to run the meetings from now. This is how we're going to run the sales meetings, for example. This is how we're going to run the marketing meeting. And it's from the first week, people are coming in like, dun, 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 and then that's how these cultures can change. So I think what Ian's saying of like, give 2 weeks to just, and this works for like both the person coming on to feel warm, to the team to get kind of, for the person to come acclimatise to the culture and the temperature of the brand, but also for the team to kind of absorb.
Yeah, for sure,
absorb.
yeah, absolutely.
And I think I think what Ian said is 2 weeks is great, but what the Honest guys were saying is they're one of their guys going to Pizza Pilgrims, senior position, and he just said for the first 6 months, obviously, it's just literally soak it in, go and speak to the person in every single department, sit with them, get to like literally soak it in, and almost create like kind of roots into every kind of, and then, because again, there's two sides to this. It's a symbiotic relationship. You need the person coming on board to feel calm, collected, safe, ready to excel. But also, there's a new person joining the tribe. The team need to feel, that there's a culture that's been bubbling and brewing and building for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. You can't just have someone come in and throw a fucking wrecking ball around.
I think there's two really interesting add-ons to that, Dan, and that's a great shout. When you're meeting the internal sort of team, whichever it's finance or the strategy team or the brand team or the logistics team, that when, I'm logistics, I'm meeting Dan, who's just joined Dan's Donuts or whatever it is.
Come on, boy.
And I'm saying, like, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is how I think we might be able to work together. So you're already opening the dialogue around collaboration. It can be very dry, some of these meetings, but let's get into it. How are we going to work together? How are we going to build a really powerful partnership? How are we going to work in collaboration? And it's what we've done before, but there might be some ideas you have, and let's get into that rhythm straight away. And I think the other bit is, don't just make it internal, but go and meet some of the customers, go and understand how the brand or the product, the route to market, get into the heartbeat of what makes the organisation tick. And the sooner you can get your head around that and get that immersion that Billy was talking about, you feel part of the team and you understand how levers you can drive to add value to the team and to the business. I
love the 6 months though. I think if you're in a position as a business to give someone that much time, that's amazing, because that shows that can show a real sense of trust. And I think that's where you'll get the best out of someone, is if you give them that time and then they'll want to repay that trust. I really love that. But that's very generous.
Very generous. I'm 90% sure. I mean, we need to check that, but I'm 90% sure it was either. I'm pretty sure it was 6 months. I'll have to go and
again, to be fair, we work on 3 months.
Yeah, the point is that if you give someone time to say, look, we've hired you to deliver. Yeah, obviously in the short term, medium term, but long term, this is a long-term appointment. Take your time, learn the business, network, learn the industry, learn the market. Total immersion, we use that word a lot. That, I truly believe, will stand someone in the best stead.
And that's the self-guiding piece with the sign is quite interesting as well, Billy. From what we've heard in the marketplace as well. Go on.
So
we're speaking Hunter and Gather again, and this name's coming up a lot today. They do a lot of self-guiding around the immersion.
You say self-guiding?
Well, they use Asana as a platform. So, for example, find out how to get the expenses policy, so you know what to do and how to. So rather than someone showing and telling you, you're guiding yourself a little bit through immersion and that onboarding piece, which I thought was quite a neat idea from actually, a self-managing perspective, particularly in smaller businesses. You can then sort of catch up at the end of a sort of process and see where I take feedback, continually learn. But as a platform, I think it's quite an interesting angle.
So that's like all the stuff, like all the sort of the housekeeping bits.
Yeah, housekeeping, hygiene, admin. Yeah.
Yeah. That's quite clever.
I think a big part as well is understanding the human, like the person as well.
Yeah.
I think this is not necessarily, even throughout the interview process, if you can, is understanding what that person's ambitions are. How they like to be managed, how they like to be coached. What gets the best out of them. Because if you understand what's going on in their personal lives, understand all of this stuff, you can then put some processes in place to get the best out of them once they're in the role. I think that's a big part as well.
I think I like what you said there, mate, about and I'll put my hands up, like when we had new people join, previously, I think you can think, oh God, they're in ops. It's not my problem. Not that it's not my problem, but I'll do the intro chat, and that's kind of that.
Yeah, I've ticked my box.
I've ticked my box. I think it's a really what Ian said about like everyone in this team is responsible for this person, X person, Y person, Z person coming on board. Is a really interesting framing of this. And also, I think, I know we're talking about the individual person, as in the new employee coming on board, but they need to understand how the other human works. So for example, how can we best work together? So it's almost like the what's it called? The ops person says, right, my best way of working is write me an email with 5 bullet points, and that's my way of working. Exactly, Salesperson, give me a bell. Marketing person, voice note me. Perry from, there's a guy who, Ray Dalio, who's this absolutely minted geezer, billionaire, wrote a book called Principles. And in his, and this is kind of way too extreme, but hear me out. And he basically says he has these cards with it's a bit like his own version of the Myers-Briggs test. Like the different.
I was going to talk about that because I've got an interesting.
So this is really interesting, and he basically says he has these scorecards, which I think this is a bit too extreme, but good ideas start at the edges and the extremes, right? So it would say, right, hi, I'm Billy, I'm I don't know, the yellow. The fucking
colours.
I think that's what we're going to come. The disc pro, the young and the youngest young.
So what Perry does at Big Fish is he kind of has a different example of this, but he wants people. But when he's doing one of his workshops, he sets down and says this is how this person works best. And I don't think. I think for brands listening to this, there could be a way to make that kind of quite extreme process kind of more challengery. So it's almost like say, this is the way I work, or to say like these are even if it's as simple as saying, I work in terms of give me a bell. Or
you can make a but I mean there's
what are you going to say about
very similar to what you'll say SHS Drinks, which is a big business, one of the MDs there.
SHS, what do they do?
Schlur would be one of their brands.
Schlur as in the advert is just like
that's
jokes.
But they've got a whole bunch. They're peanut butter for a while, so they've got a whole bunch of different businesses. But one of the MDs there,
come a bit closer to me.
One of the MDs there actually used the colours profile when he brought people in, and we do it here as well. We get everyone to do a test, and it just shows their preferences for communication style.
What are goes through the colours?
Well,
so yellow is
it's red, which simply is like action bias. Yellow is you get your energy from other people. We both do red and yellow, but yellow is much more you share information. You need to connect. Red is a need for action. Green is a caring, sharing individual, and blue is a devil for detail.
They'd have to make a whole new colour for you, Popey.
And everyone's tends to be a different blend of these things. So you can imagine an analyst might be more blue. You can imagine a salesperson might be more red, yellow. But as well as doing these tests for the new people that were coming in, he would also then share all the stakeholders in the business what their profiles were. Yeah. So you start figuring out how I communicate with the blue is very different to how I communicate with a red yellow.
I'm just trying to think how you make it so it's not like, hello, I'm a blue. Or like, like something out of a fucking alien, just rocked up to an alien ship, like, hi, I'm yellow. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
But you know, I learned to
a fucking Simpson or something. Do you know what I mean?
we've got a sort of mega blue in our business, and
Do you call them mega blue?
no, only internally.
They're fucking Smurf.
But I'm very yellow red, and until we did these, I sometimes couldn't understand. I speak to him and get really excited about an opportunity or something we were doing or program of work. But he would, he would never sound excited on the phone. But he'd come back the next day and he would, I think that's a good idea. Let's do it. Understanding now, having done this exercise, a blue will never make an on-the-spot call. They need to step back and reflect. So if you're sort of thinking that if you know that's someone who's joining the business, that's their style of communication or thought process, I think that's got to be helpful for onboarding and development.
Also, I think it can be quite daunting joining a new business, especially a challenger brand.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think: is there a way to do it without going, hey, I'm blue? But but I think you could literally just have a sheet.
I think it's just part. It doesn't need to be on. It's just part of it.
Have a sheet which is on. You could put it on the Asana thing,
Yeah.
or saying like, this is kind of the way. So when in that first 3 weeks, we've just hired some people at Islands and. Across different skill sets completely, there's the marketing guys, super chill, like they're just completely different skill sets. But I think even with what we've done there, or what Wilf's done there, I should say, is almost just having the different. This is the way this person. You don't have to make a big song and dance about what colour you are, like it's a swimming badge or something. But
a mega blue.
yeah. But I think it's so true because you know which how to do the dance. And
you also learn how not to communicate with them as well.
Yeah, that's even more important.
More important. Yeah, particularly in your early days, to feel impartial.
There is a way. I mean, that's a really good point. Like, is there a way to make it a little bit a little bit less serious, as it were, a little bit like more challenger, as you said? I don't know, but that's a really good point. But I think the point which we're all trying to make is what you need to do is understand the people the business needs to understand how you like to work and how you like to be managed, but also you can understand a bit more about them and how they operate as well.
It needs to link in. What other things can brands do in that kind of second period of getting people primed and ready to go? We've talked about kind of the colours, which I think is really interesting.
I think shadowing, high performers in the business is a good one, for them to understand what good looks like within that organisation, because that's something you need to figure out along the way as well.
Yeah, so I think it's spending time with key internal and external stakeholders. So it's spending time with, as Paul said, like high performance. So people who are up to speed and who are performing well, spending time with them to know what good looks like. But also anyone external, like if you're working with a marketing agency or if you're outsourcing your Amazon, for example, spending time with that agency to learn as much as possible about how they work. So it's any external contacts as well to be I guess it's that whole learning and immersion piece still. And then this could either sit in one of two camps. I think it's probably a continuous thing, but one thing that I've noticed a couple of brands do, so the guys at Real Superfoods and Hunter and Gather, they do get on quite well, and I know that they do introduce functional leads. So the head of growths, for example, will have been introduced to each other, know each other, so they can share ideas, share ways of working. So you can, what's working for Real may also work for Hunter and Gather, or vice versa. What hasn't been working, they can share. So sharing best practice, I think that could be really powerful as well.
I think that's a really good idea for brands who are slightly smaller. So say you're a brand of 3 people.
Yeah.
And you're fourth. You are the first sales director. You are the first marketing director. So you're like a bit like a Fatso, the chocolate brand I'm speaking to tomorrow. Say you're the first sales director there, I think, and you're like, oh, how do we get them to shadow high performers? No fucking high performers here. Yeah. You can reach out to a brand like Moju, and I think what I love about half the reason I'm obsessed with this industry is how collaborative and supportive everyone is. Say, look, we'll send you a shitload of chocolate. Yeah. Can we sit with your sales director for 20 minutes?
Just understand the journey you've been on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really nuanced, interesting point, because
Using your network.
And also being like, we don't have to have, I think people can think we need a massive HR person to do this. And actually, if you're boiling it down, it's just, if we're trying to boil down the principles, it's like, okay, one, just be punctual. How you do one thing is how you do everything, the brilliant basics. Two, like find out how they want to work, how you want to work. Three, kind of colours, how the team communicate.
Yeah.
Four, like the shadowing of high performing people in the team. And if you haven't got a massive team, that's no problem.
And even if you have, that external community is really powerful, right? To connect them.
I'm trying to think. I don't know who did drinks. I know who did drinks a lot. So I know. When I was at Manny, so Ollie from Manny, Jess, who was at Camden Town, Lucky Saints, Camden Town, they had the Bloody Drinks guys. They did like this thing every Thursday where they'd all meet up for like just very informal. But it's like other brands meeting other brands. If you say you're not in a co-working space, like you can almost create like a WhatsApp group with three other founders, and almost create this kind of little
community.
But like a really kind of like back to COVID times, like your bubble.
Your bubble.
Don't worry about that. But I think that's an interesting way of doing it because it's like you can access other people.
Yeah. So I think this is what I was going to say is like, well, I think one of the reasons we all love this industry so much is like everyone genuinely does try and help each other. That's why I love it. It's awesome. So if you've got a new starter starting, and why not utilize your network? If there's anyone that you know who's got experience or works in another brand or has been doing this job for another brand, I'm almost certain they'd be willing to help. So I think it's just trying to utilize the network and then try and encourage your new hire to utilize their network to just be a sponge and just learn from lots of different types of people and meet lots of different types of people. Especially this industry more than any others is that everyone will want to help.
I think the other thing is about like, again, this is all case by case, but having what are some of the, and you're way more privy to the brands than me, but like what are some of the perks that do really well? So I know I've got a mate who works for a company called Work Week in New York. I mean, nothing to food and drinks, so I'm talking about it, but anyway. but one of their perks, which I think is really good, is like they're allowed to buy one of their values, the business's values is curiosity. Every employee is allowed to order like 4 books a month on Amazon. I think that's fucking sick. 'Cause it's like, imagine if you've got a team of 10, that's suddenly 40 books a month. Yeah. Whatever that is a year. Like your curiosity is going to learning. Are there any like really like nifty
I got one.
things people can do in that kind of period so that when people come, they're like, right, I can order this or I can go to that gym class. I don't know. You guys know more about it than me. I'm just asking.
Yeah, look, there's also the whole learning and development piece and onboarding and training is a big part of it. People want to join to learn and to grow, and people want people with curious minds, so they need to support that curiosity. So I've heard the book piece, and I think that's a great initiative. But there are other platforms out there as well when you get a certain amount of credits every month to download some seminar notes or learning on something, but then you feed back to the business what you've learned during your first 6 months. So they kind of set out, where are the areas we need to support you in your growth, in your development, in your learning to be a better version of yourself, if you like. So here's some tools we can offer you internally. Here's some tools you can offer you externally, and then let's sort of catch up at the end of that period, and let's sort of feedback what you've learned, and maybe we can take some of that on board in the business as well.
There's one example that the guys at Something and Nothing do, and I think this was born out of a new hire. So what they have in there,
Something Nothing for listeners is that's the
like soda and spritz.
Yeah.
And that all employees have what they call a one rejuvenation day per quarter. So basically what that means is that in addition to your holiday, you can go and spend a day at a spa day or getting a massage or going for a hike that is basically you just switching off for a day so that when you come back in, they're all around encouraging creative thinking there. So that you can come back in with the view that you'll be thinking more creatively, you'll be fresher.
Unless you've gone to the pub, you've just gone straight.
I feel like hydration. I feel like I need one of those.
When that's like 5 Guinnesses. Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? So I think that's quite cool. And I think especially if it could be related to new hires, is that starting a new job is tough. Like it's draining. You absolutely feel knackered. So that kind of thing could be quite nice as well.
I think working back, so obviously this morning interviewed Adam, co-founder of Innocent, and one of the things he was saying is, and it is kind of, people talk about it now as codifying your values as a brand.
Yeah.
And like, this is the way we want things to work around here at Innocent. This is the way we do things around here at Innocent. And what he was saying to me is it's so easy for people just to stick the values on the bog above the fridge.
Yeah.
But actually, is there ways in that period to really like entrench the values in the new employees' kind of mind, but then getting other members of the team to show the behaviors? Because the whole reason you have values is because you want to inflict behaviors. So it's like I'm trying to think of a value that's good. What's Lucky Saints? Devil in the detail, I think, is one of Lucky Saints. Yeah, Devil in the detail. Get lucky. I think Get Lucky is one of Lucky Saints.
And Curiosity is a great one as well.
So Get Lucky is one of Lucky Saints. So it's like you can have that value, and obviously Emma was Innocent, but in that first period of weeks, you're trying to get the other team members to show the behaviours. So that could be a field sales girl or guy going out on the road and really kind of taking that person on the road with them, because high performance isn't just going upwards, it's downwards as well. You can have an absolutely banging field sales rep and get the new sales rep to go out with a field sales rep, show them how to get lucky. So that's going to pitch to 15 indies in it can go, it doesn't go. I think the common theme is like, high performance are always up. It's not. There's down as well.
And I think that's interesting. Rather than just say in the induction, these are our values, actually go and live the values, demonstrate the values, and we'll show you how we live and breathe those values.
Because values are ultimately guardrails to the behaviours.
Their behaviours and attitudes, absolutely. Yeah.
Just one thing I think we just need to make sure we definitely cover before is I think we're speaking a lot about like benefits for the employee around rejuvenation days and giving them 6 months to get up to speed and all that. There's amazing, great stuff and there's context behind it, but ultimately these new hires do need to come in and deliver. So I think it's really important that once they at some point in after that first couple of weeks, that clear expectations or milestones are set going forwards. So someone knows what they need to do to get to pass probation, for example, or they know what they need to get
clarity.
to promoted.
Does that not happen?
No. We'll review it after three months or 6 months, and not every business sets out clear expectations and around that and giving clarity. And then post probation, what do the next 3, 6, 12 look like? And I think the better the communication and simplicity and clarity of expectations, the better performance that will drive.
100%. Because if you think about it, if you're a founder, and you're running a business, you've hired someone great, and then your mind is probably like, right, we've got to secure this listing, we've got to launch this new product, actually we need to hire even more people. So like mind's going loads of different directions, and it's quite easy to, I guess, still remember that the existing team still need to be looked after, and unless people have expectations or know what their progression is, they could lose motivation. So I think it's so hard to manage all this stuff, but it needs to be, this stuff is seriously important, that someone knows where they're going in their career, and what exactly, as I said, what they need to do,
and how they're going to be supported to get there.
Yeah, totally.
And what are some of the best practices I'm kind of the worst person to ask this. Why I was going to come out.
Nice sound.
Yeah. What are some of the best sort of practices in setting goals? Because again, like in this period, you don't want to set so many that the person's like, fucking hell. But how does, again, you've worked with more brands than I have, so what do you think is kind of some of the best practices in terms of, this is how we're going to get you through the probation period, this is, do you know what I mean?
Look, I think the probation period is depending, again, on the function of the role. It'll have different objectives, and I think part of it is about gaining some sort of mastery and understanding of the role that you're in and how you should be delivering in that role, and also building those internal relationships and understanding how the business works, because some of it is based on output and performance when you review at a probation period. Some of it is a lot of it is on internal feedback, also external feedback from customers. So there's no one size fits all here, but it's just having clarity of understanding what are the dimensions of the role and what's realistic to, in the first 6 months to indicate, we're performing at a level which supports what's required in the role and supports that the sort of future trajectory of that candidate and the investment in that candidate. And I think beyond that, then it's two-way. It's understanding where a candidate wants to take their career, understanding that where the business is going, that what's the trajectory, what opportunities may or may not become available, and how do you support that learning and development together. So I don't think I've answered quite theoretically, but again, it's about where is the business, where is it going, what role can that individual play in
depends on the person.
Ultimately, but a brand is, and I think it's kind of the perfect place to begin to wrap this up, because it's like at the beginning we started about the human and don't forget it's a human being. I think it's something what you said, PJ, but like ultimately that human being needs all the kind of the love and the kind of cuddling, whatever, to really soak in and absorb the brand. But then they also need some hard metrics and data to be like, this is the compass how we get to here.
High performers, high potential people love a challenge. Yeah. So let them have a challenge.
Well,
what's your definition of high performance? Yeah, that podcast. Go on, what is it, Paul?
It's that podcast now.
Yeah. What's your definition of hungry, mate?
The point I was going to make, I personally, this is my opinion. Yeah. I personally think it needs to be situational. It depends on the person. Paul's absolutely right. Some high potential people do love a challenge. So the goals that you might want to set them might be pretty ambitious, whereas there'll be other people who may not respond as well to quite ambitious goals, and they may need to like slightly alter the approach to get the best out of them.
Again, slightly nuanced on this is you need to speak to the team function it's going into, right? Because you may have, and I've seen this happen, where the team are like busting their balls off trying to get to goal X, right? Say here, new person comes in trying to throw their weight about, like obviously wanting to impress the board, so they're like, right, we're gonna go up to here, and then suddenly the sales team and the marketing team are thinking, hang on, mate, we've just been grafting, and we don't see that as. So I think there's actually when you're setting the goals for the new person coming in, is actually speaking about the team they're going into. So say it's the ops team, it's like, well, do you really think we can cut costs to 40% by 10%, for example. New guy or girl comes in, is like, right, we're going to wants to put their mark down. Let's cut it by 30%. Yeah. Well, then the actual team that you've got in place is going to be completely demotivated. So I think there's a dance between those two as well there.
We get to see that all the time. Where, for example, a business have set targets for the D2C team, but then they've also reduced the marketing budget. So it's a bit like if our ad spend's been reduced, how can we expect us to increase our numbers? So you're right. It's like trying
to get a sprinter to run the 100 meters faster, but then someone just putting a 2 kg, well, not 2 kg, maybe 20 kg backpack on. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. It's like, I think that's a really interesting.
It could also be self-developed behaviour. If you're uncomfortable sort of presenting, building someone up to present or lead a program of work within the business, that to me that's a good investment and building a candidate personally and professionally. And so I think that's also part of it. If they want to move into wider functional areas or bigger leadership roles, whatever the journey they want to, you're giving them the tools and investing in them to get there. And that's, to me, the symbiotic relationship. That's why a person stays and is motivated and goes the extra mile and does the high performance piece that we're talking about, because it's a two-way thing.
And also, one of the final things is, I think, actually, this is why I said, let's just roll this. Yeah. William Kendall said the most important employee in your business is the newest employee. Yeah. And why he says this is because the team are so used to their ways of working that they can't see their blind spots. Whereas a new employee, they're fresh as a daisy,
Yeah.
can see where there could be blind spots. So one thing you could do is be like, right, what do you think?
Yeah. And give them the passport and the license. To do
Yeah,
that.
and then they
Yeah,
present to the
yeah.
team. So this is 3 things this brand X does really well.
Yeah.
This is 3 things brand X could potentially do better. And I think that, I think what I've learned from you guys today, or what we've teased out, is it's actually, as much as it's about the new employee coming on and feeling warm and comfortable and them doing high performance, it's also making sure it doesn't rock the boat so much and that the team can still perform in a highly way. And I think when you do these brilliant basic things, it really, because for the person to do well, the team has to do well. Mm-hmm. So the 2 things have to fucking, fornicate in some weird way in the middle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But is there anything else you guys would like to say on that? I've missed or...
No, I'd just be interested to know what your definition of hungry is. Sorry, mate.
We're going to get a fucking... Well, it's about burger time, 5 Guys over the road after this.
I know you're joking.
Yeah. It changes every day, mate. Changes 3 times a day.
No, but hopefully that's been helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for your time, Dan.
Wicked.